press. And with this, I would like to hand over to Nadahl first, Boomtel Networks. Please also say a few words about Boomtel. I think it's a very interesting business case. And then we move on to our other two panelists. We have Yahoo here, and we have Vodafone here. But first, over to you, Nadahl.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you.
I think it should come up.
The green button, I suppose. Thank you for coming, and those of you online. My name is Nadahl Shocair, founder and CEO of Boomtel Networks, a 120-year-old startup. We're a carve-out from Deutsche Telefonwerke. We were the development arm in the UK, and we carved out into our own company based between the UK and Berlin, the wonderful city of Berlin, Germany. So, there's a statement. This is such a great invention that every major town in America will have one. I don't know if anybody here or anybody online is a history buff like I am, but Alexander Graham Bell actually said that. Today is a little bit important, I think, because 134 years ago, almost to the day, these are the actual notes from Alexander Graham Bell's notebook. This is when he shouted, "Mr. Watson, come here. I want to see you." And I have a copy of his journal, which is interesting to read. Let's talk about the end of last year, 2007. The world population hit a little bit over 6.6 billion and growing every day. There are 330 million broadband internet lines, 1.2 billion internet users, 3 billion mobile phones. Maybe that's even higher, Frank, I'm not sure. 110 million iPods. That was the figure up to June of 2007. Now every iPod is downloading from iTunes. There's 600 million cars, and 6.3 million people are flying every single day. So humanity is binding together into a complex ecosystem and evolving into this connected planetary community powered by this great thing called the Internet. And it keeps demanding faster, as Dan was saying, better, cheaper, and free. This demand is representing some tremendous opportunities for both the incumbents, the device innovators, and the internet players and the startups. The incumbents, or the telephone companies, whether it be wired or wireless, are developing fiber to the whatever, and the wireless providers providing the wideband. The upstarts and the internet players and the device makers are generating all these new innovations, as you all know and you all experience because you're using them every day. So as the post offices emerged or diverged to become the national telephone companies, and a lot of them are still called Deutsche Telekom or Belgacom or what have you, they still live off the call meter tariff, most of them. Where this is a global conference, and there are a lot of countries who are still living off the meter tariff. The SMS is metered, and they have this interconnect agreements within this ITU cartel that was set up many years ago. This is the point of view of the internet world. And the need to secure their future survival is driving their fiber installations and wideband wireless investments because they're all driven by ARPU. ARPU stands for the average revenue per user, and that's been dropping consistently over the years. So at Telecom, I was told about this, and I laughed, and I didn't believe it. But actually, I checked before I presented this slide. At Telecom is now selling you mixer heads for baking. They're selling you washing machines and toothbrushes, trying to push up this volume. Enough said on this, but I thought that's kind of interesting in the state of some of the telecoms, what they're trying to do in order to earn more money. So the telco orchestra, as I like to call them, because it's all orchestrated very well, is now investing to give you the triple play, or maybe more than triple play. They're going to give you voice, data, TV, and gaming maybe, or whatever. Again, all driven by the drive to increase that average revenue per user. But will this change their futures their fortunes long term? So, come to the internet side. Leveraging the fat pipe, or the high-grade broadband. The ideas are coming out of the development labs and sellers of this world. They're backed by venture capital, and they will deliver a heap and a leap of innovations. So bringing you devices, contents, games, applications, and new ecosystems are emerging every day. I mean, who ever heard of Yahoo or YouTube or QQ or Facebook or Flickr just a few years ago? So it's basically, as Dan was saying, and I agree, it's the internet world versus the telco world. It's a very uncomfortable marriage between the two. It's a loveless marriage, and they're together because of the children, the customers. And so imagine being charged a tariff for every search on Yahoo or every YouTube you watch. So the difference of opinion. And they're together. And it's actually it's become in the conferences and discussions that we've had, it's actually a loveless relationship. But they have to be together. They're bound somehow. So the question of who wins and who loses is part of this discussion. I think the carriers, this is my opinion, in about 10 to 15 years, I think the carriers will turn into pure gatekeepers. They own the pipe, or they own the network, and they will be the gatekeepers of that network. And like Bell and others before him and after him, they will keep, the innovators will keep feeding the hunger of this connected humanity. And who will pay for this at the end of the day? At the end of the day, it is obviously the consumer pays for it in one way or another, whether he's being advertised to, or whether he's being charged for the gateway to the network. But at the end of the day, it's the consumer that will pay. And I was very interested in that slide, the 39 euro slide, which is exactly the price point right now in Japan for that level of Mbit, which is $2 a day. And $2 a day is about where it is today. And it will probably drop to about half of that in time because, again, people are demanding faster, better, cheaper, or even free. So, who's Boomtel? I suppose this is the last slide. We created the new internet telephone number. The internet prefix now is 100 plus your internet telephone number. So we've taken the model of the traditional carriers and we ported it over to the internet. The reason we created an internet telephone number is because the majority of the world lives off the touch-tone telephone. So with the touch-tone telephone, you can bridge your calls over and through the internet. We're focused on about 90 million businesses globally, employing 1 billion people. They use 450 million telephone extensions, and they spend $800 billion a year on their communications costs. So what Skype did and others like them, it did for the online chat communities. We're doing that for the business communities, integrating into the existing infrastructure of the business market, which is the PBX and others. So that's who we are. So thank you, and I will hand over, I believe, to Dan.
Just very briefly, thank you. That was a very interesting example of a company that is really bringing
you don't need this.
Both worlds together, the internet world, the web world, and the more traditional network infrastructure side. So maybe now is a good opportunity to hand over to Marco, who is